Today, we're once again talking about Kurt's card care because this time his juice has finally been exposed. We know what his ingredients are within his spray because he's had to go ahead and disclose those in order to go ahead and sell his product on Amazon and on his website in order to ship it into certain states. And that was one of the things we spoke about in some of the more recent videos about maybe something that was needing to be done because a few people flagged some loopholes. But we've got the ingredients list now, and it basically ends the debate. There is no questions around what's in his spray now because we can in fact see, and it does in fact contain chemicals. And that's something that many people in the past have tried to deny or downplay. It does contain chemicals. I'm going to talk you through exactly what the ingredients are in this video, get your thoughts as always, and sort of share my thoughts as to, why I don't like it, why I think it's, unethical, why I think it's a bit dangerous, and why, if it is something that you want to go ahead and do yourself on your PC cards, go right ahead, as I've said before, but just don't be pushing back on people when they're asking the question around whether or not you've done it and then get angry when you've done it and not disclose it to them. So that's what, I want to cover today and sort of hear your thoughts down below as always. Now, this was brought to my attention, I want to say 4 or 5 days ago by one of my subscribers. I've been really delayed in actually making a video about it because I've been so busy with work. So I do apologize in advance. You guys wouldn't have seen I've not done a video since this time last week. Usually it's 3 videos a week. So again, apologies for being a bit AWOL, but I'm finally getting to it now. And that's what I'm going to basically talk about. So like I said in the intro, it's an interesting one because it does in fact outline exactly what the chemicals are. Now, this is a statement that has to accompany when he goes ahead and sells this spray on Amazon. And then I believe it also has to get listed on his website when he's selling to certain states. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but it does in fact get accompanied when it's being sold on Amazon. And what you can sort of see here is that it's a 9-page document and it outlines a bunch of things. I'll get to the ingredients in a second, but you can sort of see here at the start, it has some, typical hazard warnings, precautionary statements that you see with certain sprays and chemicals that get sold online to sort of say, don't be an idiot, don't drink this, don't inhale it, don't breathe it in, don't eat it, all that kind of stuff, right? The common sense things that you seem to see accompanied with so many products these days that you're like, well, surely people aren't that dumb. But guess what? People are dumb. That's why this stuff exists. Now, it has pretty serious things mentioned here, as you would expect, but what people care about are the ingredients themselves. And I'll zoom in now, and it sort of outlines that it has 4 main components within it. We don't know what the weightings are because the percentages are protected under, trade secrets, i.e. so competitors can't steal the idea. But it outlines 4 things, and you can sort of see straight off the bat, it contains chemicals. The case is closed. People that try and defend it, you're wrong because it has stuff on here that might do some damage long-term to the card. And, studies have shown that this stuff can be, detrimental to things like cards because they are, in fact, chemicals, right? So anyway, the ingredients are non-hazardous ingredient. We don't know what that is, but the other 2 things are important. Isopropanol, which is a type of alcohol, and then ethanol denatured. These 2 things being the most obvious of the 2 that are, in fact, chemicals. You've got some GHS classifications, some issues like flammable liquids, causes eye irritation. I don't know what this other crap means, but you guys get the gist. It's not a good thing. You can't go ahead and drink this sort of stuff. You can't go bathe in it, all that kind of thing. Now, I saw one other person comment on this via video, Opossum Bud. I've referenced him in the past. He's a Pokemon, YouTuber. I didn't watch his video in detail because you guys will know that when I go ahead and make content about, news or something that others are talking about, I typically like to come in fresh and not biased through other people's opinions. But one thing I did see was a number of people in his comments section were making jokes about denatured. Ethanol denatured basically means they've added something to the chemical, so people can't go ahead and drink it. It's like something that's really bitter or something that tastes really bad, so people can't go ahead and buy ethanol and try and get drunk off it, right? We've seen, things like this done in the past where they'll add ingredients to something so it tastes bad, so people can't go ahead and get really cheap alcohol. So that's what denatured means in that particular instance. And then what the last, point is proprietary detergents and preservatives, i.e. more chemicals, which is, pretty wild. And like I says over here, the specific chemical identity and or exact percentage concentration of this composition has been withheld as a trade secret, which is fair. But, case closed, like I said, isopropanol, ethanol, things you're adding to something, they're alcohol-based, implying that's going to do some sort of damage. I said a bit earlier that studies have been done. I don't know if, in fact, there's been any studies done on cards specifically, but studies have been done to show the effects of things like alcohol and ethanol used on certain products, used on certain materials, which is why you need to see things like this disclosed, which is why you need to see things like this disclosed, right? These precautionary statements exist for a reason, and that is because they do damage to things over time. And They're not, natural ingredients. Obviously, everything is natural in the world, even man-made stuff, because it comes from the earth, etc. They are chemicals, and that's why they have to get disclosed as so. So, it's one of those things that, I think puts this whole situation to bed. It makes it pretty obvious that this stuff is, in fact, chemicals. It's not going to be good to your cards long term, and you need to be very careful if you are using it, especially if you're somebody out there defending this sort of thing. And there's other things on here talking about, like I said, you need to wash your hands after using it. You got to wear protective gloves. You got to wear protective eye stuff. You got to, do things to prevent this from touching you and from being exposed to certain things, or being, like it sort of says over here, store in a well-ventilated space. Last time I checked, card slabs are not well-ventilated. I know this stuff sort of gets added to the card and then wiped down later on, but, what do you think is going to do if some of that residue remains on the card and you couldn't get it off? Like, that's where, the question mark has always been. And that's why I've sort of always been, really against this sort of thing, because you can go ahead and do whatever you want for your own PC, but if you're adding that to a card and then it gets graded and it comes back a PSA 9 and then you sell it to somebody, then that person has it in their collection for a couple of years and all of a sudden some damage starts happening, like, that's not fair to that person. They weren't aware that chemicals were added to the card. I keep saying something because that's what we've said in the past when we've talked about it, because we don't know what it was, but you're adding chemicals to this thing. That person that bought that, card has the right to know that you added chemicals to it. And like I've sort of said for 3 years now, the reason why people don't disclose they've gone ahead and used spray or used wax or used this other crap is because they know the person buying it is no longer going to want to pay that premium, which is where it becomes unethical, which is where it sort of borderlines on, fraud and deceptive sales tactics and all that kind of thing. And people will push back on that fraud statement that I just mentioned. But like I've talked about in recent months, actually in the last 6 to 12 months, you can sort of see here, I've talked about Kurt and card cleaning in general quite a lot, but we sort of saw, I want to say 7 months ago, exactly 7 months ago, Kurt was banned from, PSA. He was banned. He had some of his own cards decertified. And then what we saw a couple of months later was that, PSA updated their policy. Their T's and C's now explicitly state that if you're sending this stuff in, you're committing fraud, right? Because you're agreeing, when you're submitting, you're signing a contract with PSA that you've not added or done anything to this card. And it specifically mentions wax, polish, and spray in their T's and C's. That's where the fraud element comes in, because you're going ahead, signing that agreement, you're then going ahead and mailing it to them and then trying to sell that to somebody else, right? Deceptive sales tactics, all that kind of crap. And again, people will still try and defend it, but it's like, what sort of leg do you have to stand on at the moment? You've got confirmation now that chemicals were added. Stop using this stuff, guys. And stop using it if you want to go ahead and sell it to me. If you want to use it for your PC, go for gold. That's your risk. You can deal with the consequences. But don't be somebody thinking that you can be smart, be cute, and try and rip someone off, right? Because this stuff is not okay. And I think the fact that it is chemicals proves it. Now, obviously, I've not had a lot of time because I wanted to dig a bit deeper, I should say. I'm stuttering at the moment. Apologies, guys, not feeling too well. But I want to dig a bit deeper and go to some of Kurt's interviews that he's done with Retro Hoops and that he's done with, Jeremy Lee as an example, and see some of the verbiage he used when he talked about the spray, because that'll tell me a whole lot as well. Now, people have said Kurt's a really nice guy and all that kind of stuff. That's fine. I'm not saying he's a bad dude or anything. You can do whatever you want. I'm here for people to make money, but just be honest about things. So the fact that he's come out now and had to disclose this information, I think, is really important. I'd love to see what his wax includes, what his polish includes. Now, maybe that stuff doesn't have to get disclosed because it's not a liquid. I'm not sure. Someone let me know down below. But I think this is a really good outcome and hopefully opens some eyes to people that are trying to defend this or, saying it's okay or, cautious about it. It's a bit of vindication for people pushing back and all that kind of thing. I'm not here to stop people making money. Some people will say I'm an idiot and a hypocrite for saying that, but my ultimate point with this thing that I've said many times in this video and said, many times in the last 3 years is that I want people to be honest. I want people to be transparent. I want people to do the right thing. And, going ahead and using this and trying to sell it to someone is not the right thing. And what's always most hilarious about situations like this is that the people that go ahead and do it and then get really angry when people like me push back are the same people that would get really defensive if somebody did the same thing back to them or somebody tried to rip them off, right? This is not a good thing to be doing. So I'm really keen to hear what you guys have to say down below. Let me know your thoughts on this. Let me know if you've seen the news elsewhere. Let me know if you think, isopropanol is okay. Let me know if you think ethanol is okay. Like, I don't think those are okay. They're chemicals, right? We shouldn't be adding things to a card, especially, cardboard, that might absorb it and might just deteriorate over time. Like, this is not okay. This is not okay, guys. So share your thoughts down below. I rambled towards the end. I do apologize. You guys know that I do that on the regular. but I really want to hear what you have to say. I had a card show yesterday in Sydney. It was pretty slow. It was really bloody hot. The reception was terrible. I was meant to go on Jeremy Lee's live stream to talk about, the card show in Sydney, but the internet just did not work. I lost some sales because of it. A lot of people around me lost sales because of it. It was just terrible. But the show itself was fun. I sold some cards. I'll talk about that maybe later in the week. But wanted to bring this one to your attention, and apologies again for being a bit AWOL in the last week or so. Like I said, only did one video. Just been so busy with work and looking after the kids that I found it a bit difficult to go ahead and try and record something. So anyway, I'm rambling. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.